tonight, the state school funding formula is being challenged by the Indiana State Teachers Association, and 2 Duke University lacrosse players are free on bond after an indictment on charges of raping and kidnapping a woman at a party.
And in sports, the Vincennes Lincoln baseball team has climbed to the top spot in the Class 3A poll, and the head trainer of the San Francisco Giants has reportedly been subpoenaed to testify in baseball's steroid probe.
Newscenter 22 is next. The Indiana State Teachers Association plans to file a lawsuit alleging that the state is failing to adequately fund standards and accountability mandates on public schools. Union Deputy Executive Director Dan Clark says the state's funding formula doesn't provide enough overall money for schools to meet mandates and academic standards. He says the state's system of steering more dollars to students who are in at-risk categories such as poverty or limited English abitrary. The lawsuit will be filed on behalf of students from 9 families from different school districts. Superintendent Doug Rose says it appears the Vincennes School Corporation's $57 million building program has been overwhelmingly defeated in a petition referendum. Rose told the Vincennes School Board Monday that although he still believes in the merits of the project, he intends to reach out to members of the Save Our Schools opposition group to see if they can find some common ground.
I still believe what we attempted. That's my job. I got to fight for kids, and I will continue to fight for kids. I just have to have a different plan now.
Following last night's board meeting, a member of Save Our Schools approached Rose to say her group would now like to tour the school corporation's facilities. In other business, last night, the Vincennes School Board accepted the resignation of Lincoln High School principal Dale McHouston. McHouston, who has been on the job only 2 years, has accepted a position as superintendent of the Princeton Community Schools. Superintendent Doug Rose says a search is underway to find McHouston's replacement.
We'll take all applications. We would like to find somebody that is student-oriented. And that is a good leader.
Okay.
Rose says the job opening will be posted internally and with all the state's universities and colleges. Don't drink and drive. That was a message for Knox County High School students today during the 11th annual Project Safe Prom in Inman Field in Vincennes. Juniors from Knox County's 4 high schools witnessed a mock alcohol-related accident involving 2 high school-aged couples on prom night. Knox County Deputy Coroner Gordon Becker says the goal of the program is to teach responsibility to juniors and show how poor judgment on their part can change their lives and the lives of others forever.
We target the same group every year because that means we'll have a new group every year. We have the junior classes from the 4 county high schools here. So every year we have a new junior class, we have this event, and we present it to them in hopes that we'll have them make good, mature decisions in what they do.
The mock accident also gave emergency responders a chance to honor their skills. The annual event is presented by the Knox County Coroner's Office and PAWS, a group made up of students from Knox County's 4 high schools in cooperation with Knox County's emergency responders. Knox County Commission President Jim Bobe says he will talk to the president of the Daviess County Commission, which has asked Knox County to join its effort to return to the Eastern Time Zone. Earlier this year, the Department of Transportation switched Martin, Daviess, Knox, Pike, DuBois, and Perry counties to the Central Time Zone. Bobe says he wants to hear Daviess County's reasons for wanting to switch back. He says he will also contact officials on the other counties who have also been approached about changing back. 2 petitions are being circulated in Knox County asking the commissioners to repetition on the time issue. Knox County Emergency Management Agency Director John Streeter says some changes may be coming to the county's emergency warning system. Streeter says all the county's sirens were sounded Sunday when a tornado was spotted along the Sullivan-Knox County line. Central and southern parts of the county were not affected. Streeter says he wants to set up a system where the county is split into 3 zones. He says equipment upgrades would allow warning sirens to be set off in 1, 2, or all 3 of the zones. Streeter says he's looking for this funding to make the changes possible. Knox County must come up with $141,000 to take part in Indiana's Project Hoosier Safety. It's a beefed-up radio system that allows statewide communications among local, state, and federal public safety agencies. The Knox County Commissioners will ask the County Council to appropriate a $75,000 insurance settlement to pay part of the cost. They will also ask Council if it is willing to use economic development income tax revenue to pay for the rest. The money would be used to purchase and install upgraded circuit boards at the county's dispatch center to program an estimated 650 portable radios in the county. 58 of Indiana's 92 counties have joined the Project Hoosier Safety System. Bicknell police arrested 3 people during a drug bust at 400 Lawton Avenue late last night. 43-year-old Roy Wheeler and 42-year-old Jacqueline Miller of that address are facing preliminary charges of illegal drug labs, possession of methamphetamine, and possession of marijuana, among others. 37-year-old Stacy Grounds of 509 Lawton Avenue is facing preliminary charges of possession of meth, possession of legend drug, and visiting a common nuisance. Knox County Sheriff's deputies arrested a wanted felon late Monday afternoon following a foot chase in the Decker area. 38-year-old Creighton Bowers of rural Vincennes was finally caught in a field near Decker off of State Road 241. He was arrested on outstanding warrants for illegal drug labs and possession of a controlled substance. He is being held without bond in the Knox County Jail. A new state study says Indiana tobacco retailers are doing a better job of keeping cigarettes away from minors. State inspectors found a record low 12.7% of retailers made sales to minors in 2004. That's a sharp decline since 2000, when inspections of the state's tobacco outlets found 40% of them permitted the sales. The Indiana University's Indiana Prevention Resource Center says access to tobacco is a major factor in teen smoking rates. Still to come on Newscenter 22, 2 20-year-old sophomores have been arrested on rape and kidnapping charges in connection with a party their lacrosse team threw at Duke University last month. And Donald Rumsfeld says he hasn't given any thought to resigning as Defense Secretary. Stay with us.
On Nova, global warming.
Pollution from Europe and North America
having an effect on temperature.
Worse than we ever imagined.
We got a double whammy.
What we discovered was tenfold.
The largest temperature swing in the last 30 years.
The scientific community was not ready.
Have we been deceived by a dimming sun? Watch Nova.
New developments in the Duke University lacrosse team rape scandal. There had been doubts that the grand jury would indict anyone on the team because of lack of DNA evidence. But they did. 2 Duke University students surrendered early this morning. Brianna Keeler has the latest.
He is absolutely innocent.
That assertion from the lawyer for one of 2 Duke University lacrosse players booked on charges of first-degree rape, first-degree forcible rape, and kidnapping. 20-year-old sophomores Reed Seligman and Colin Finnerty were arrested early Tuesday morning.
It's hard to put in words the unfairness and the injustice.
Seligman and Finnerty's accuser is a 27-year-old student from nearby North Carolina Central University. She was hired March 13th to strip at a party thrown by Duke lacrosse players and says she was beaten and raped by 3 men there. The case has heightened racial divisions in the Durham area. The suspects are white. Their accuser is black.
The majority of people who are Caucasian say that they think she's lying, and the majority of African Americans think that she's telling the truth.
The accuser's cousin says she has been unfairly labeled.
And they weren't saying a human, a mother, a student. And that's what she is. She was a student trying to make a living to support her 2 children.
Court documents revealed that a medical examination of the accuser showed signs consistent with sexual assault. But defense lawyers say photographs taken at the party show the woman had been injured before she arrived. I'm Brianna Keeler, reporting from Washington.
President Bush says he'll keep all options open to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons. The president says he hopes diplomacy will succeed. In a Rose Garden appearance, Bush also says the U.S. is working closely with European allies on a response to Tehran's nuclear ambitions. A reporter asked Bush if his administration is planning a possible nuclear strike against Iranian nuclear facilities. He repeated his earlier position that all options are on the table. Even though a half-dozen retired generals think it would be a good idea, Donald Rumsfeld says he hasn't given any thought to resigning as defense secretary. Rumsfeld told reporters at the Pentagon that it's up to President Bush to decide whether he stays or goes, and Bush told reporters today that Rumsfeld needs to stay.
I say I listen to all voices, but mine's the final decision. And Don Rumsfeld is doing a fine job. He's not only transforming the military, he's fighting a war on terror. He's helping us fight a war on terror. I have strong confidence in Don Rumsfeld. I hear the voices, and I read the front page, and I know the speculation, but I'm the decider, and I decide what is best, and what's best is for Don Rumsfeld to remain as the Secretary of Defense. I want to thank you all very much.
On another personnel matter, the White House announced today that President Bush is tapping Trade Representative Rob Portman to fill the Budget Director's chair. With Josh Bolton moving from the Budget Office to Chief of Staff, Bush says he expects more changes. Police say at least 2 policemen have been killed when a bomb exploded under a car in eastern Baghdad. Police discovered 2 bodies in a Baghdad district where a dozen were found yesterday. A police officer was gunned down in Basra. Proposals for illegal alien amnesty before Congress contains various sanctions. Employers will be punished for hiring illegal aliens, and some aliens will be required to leave if they haven't resided in the U.S. for a certain time period. However, in the past, these sanctions have not been enforced. Lisa Sylvester reports.
The Immigration and Reform Act of 1986 promised a lot of enforcement, but delivered very little. Employers who hired illegal aliens were to be fined as much as $10,000 for each alien, but only 3 employers were fined in 2004. The Social Security Administration was to conduct a study on establishing a new validation system. 20 years later, there is still no mandate for employers to check Social Security numbers against a database. The Comptroller General was to investigate a counterfeit-proof Social Security card using holograms and magnetic strips. Today, bogus Social Security cards are more than abundant.
The American people were totally duped in 1986. Senator Kennedy, who's proposing the big compromise right now, supposedly, that has enforcement and amnesty, he was the one that was behind 1986, making sure that that law would never be enforced.
The government never provided a system large enough for all employers to check applicants' legal status. And there were provisions that actually discouraged companies from following enforcement rules.
The employer could not ask for specific documents that he thought were more reliable because the anti-discrimination measure built into the bill forbade him from doing that.
What the 1986 Act did do was provide amnesty for 3 million illegal aliens. Now Congress is deciding whether to grant amnesty to as many as 20 million illegal aliens in exchange for new enforcement measures.
And I keep telling my colleagues in the Senate, what do you think is different about what you're proposing than what was proposed in 1986, and what do you think will be different about the outcome? It is exactly the same thing.
The enforcement promises that were made in 1986 weren't kept, but they're still being recycled today.
Soon after the 1986 law passed, immigration agents tried to do worksite enforcement. Companies got on the phones with their lawmakers and complained, and the agents were told to back off. That sent a signal that Washington wanted immigration laws on the books, but did not really want them enforced, which is one of the reasons why we've ended up with the illegal immigration crisis. Lisa Sylvester, CNN, Washington.
A surge in gasoline prices triggered a 0.5% increase last month in prices at the wholesale level. It was the biggest jump in 3 months. Gas prices soared 9% last month, the biggest increase since November. In other economic news today, housing starts fell 7.8% in March. The Commerce Department also says building permits fell 5.5%, suggesting a continuing cool down for the housing market. City leaders and thousands of spectators took part in the ceremonies today to mark the moment the Great San Francisco earthquake hit on this day in 1906. One man in attendance says a sense of tragedy has been combined with what he calls that San Francisco optimism. Meanwhile, as Chris Lawrence reports, it's only a matter of time before the next great quake strikes.
People standing around dazed and confused. Almost like clockwork, disaster strikes again and again. Same cities, same furious weather.
You can't keep putting homes in plains that you know are going to be inundated with water.
That's Senator Dianne Feinstein talking about torrential rains that flooded Northern California. Are there certain places we just shouldn't live?
I'm afraid there are, and I think New Orleans is one of them.
Simon Winchester says a city under sea level doesn't make sense. Same goes for a Bay Area built on fault lines, or desert towns so dry they have to import water. He's written about the 1906 earthquake that destroyed San Francisco.
Everyone in California is in this blissful state of denial. An earthquake, well, it might happen.
Winchester says Europe is littered with the ruins of once great cities.
And I wouldn't be surprised if in 100 or 200 years' time, if you looked at a map of America, you'll see the ruins of New Orleans, the ruins of Tucson, the ruins of some towns in southern Florida, where we simply should not have built cities. And we'll just look at them as tourists and say, how crazy for people to have lived there.
Yet millions of people keep moving to coastal communities, from South Florida to San Francisco.
We built in an impossible place. You know, the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, was built so that people could go back and forth between these two impossible places. But the fact that the quality of life was just so spectacular just far outweighs the impossibility.
There are signs all over the city to remind residents what's coming. Next century, next year, next week.
A major rupture of the Hayward Fault would cause catastrophic damage throughout San Francisco and also throughout the East Bay.
Anne-Marie Conroy runs the Office of Emergency Services. She recently revamped its entire plan to better deal with the disaster.
For San Francisco, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
In fact, experts say sometime in the next 25 years, there's a 62% chance that another big quake will tear apart the Bay Area. They're telling people to stock up on enough food and supplies to last 3 days. That's about how long they'll be on their own until help arrives. Chris Lawrence, CNN, Berkeley, California.
Black-owned businesses are growing. The Census Bureau says the number of black-owned businesses grew by 45% from 1997 to 2002, more than 4 times the national rate for all businesses. But the government reports 92% of all black-owned businesses had no employees other than the owners. Coming up, rain is back in the forecast. Kurt Maddox will have the details when Newscenter 22 continues.
Richard the Lionheart pledged to return control of Jerusalem to the Christians. Determined to stop him, the legendary Muslim warrior Saladin. Both men are driven by honor, obsessed with power, and determined to win the prize, the sacred city of Jerusalem. Discover what makes these men holy warriors.
Well, Kurt, it was a nice spring day today. Will it continue through the night?
Well, with spring comes rain and thunderstorms, which we expect to have later tonight and early tomorrow morning. Good evening, everyone. As we take a look outside, it's currently sunny and 75 degrees here in Vincennes. Wind is east at 12 miles per hour, gusting up to 26. Humidity is currently at 43%. The barometric pressure is 29.82 and falling. Now, as we take a look at some area temperatures, sunny across the Wabash Valley. Worthington, Indiana checks in at 73. Huron, Indiana is at 74. West Salem, Illinois at 77. And Carmi, Illinois is at 80. Our national temp map will show that the South has stayed considerably warm over the past few days, with the hot spot in Fort Worth, Texas at 93. But that wasn't their hot temperature of the day. They checked in at 101 a couple hours ago. The 90s reach all the way up into Missouri, where Springfield checks in at 92. You can see the Midwest and the Eastern Seaboard have mild temperatures in the 60s, some 50s, and some 70s down in Florida. Now the colder weather continues to be up in the northwest, where they have freezing temperatures in Cheyenne, Wyoming at 32 and close to freezing in Pierre, South Dakota at 37. Our surface map will show that we have a pretty mild and clear day across the Midwest and the East. Some warm weather down here in Florida, and that's caused by this pressure system that's moving out. This occluded front over the Dakotas, and it stretches down into Texas, where it turns into a cold front. Shows that this rain will be pushing its way, and we should have some isolated to scattered thunderstorms tonight and early into tomorrow morning. But this high pressure system that's behind the occluded front will push its way. We'll have clear skies to partly cloudy skies over the weekend. Our temperatures will stay the same, but we'll have pretty clear skies. So let's take a look at your forecast. Going tonight, thunderstorms, low of 47. Tomorrow, AM thunderstorms of a high of 73. Tomorrow night, we're going to have isolated thunderstorms with a low of 54. Your extended forecast shows that Thursday, mostly sunny, 77 is the high, 53 is the low. Friday, mostly cloudy, 70 is the high, 52 is the low. And Saturday, partly cloudy, with a high of 71 and a low of 51. And Emma, that's a look at your weather.
Thanks, Kurt. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Michael Nice will have the latest from the world of sports. Stay with us.
All the cats are competing for best in show. It is an athletic event. These cats are athletes. It's absolutely a little powder puff of innocence. When you have a great cat like this, they know what it's all about.
Alice's Rule in 3A. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Michael Nice. The Vincennes Lincoln baseball team has climbed to the top of the Class 3A rankings. The Alices received 2 first-place votes and 43 rating points to edge out second-ranked New Palestine for the top spot. Big 8 conference rival Jasper checks in at number 3 this week, followed by New Haven and Belmont. Rounding out the top 10 are West Vigo, Norwell, Pendleton Heights, Batesville, and Adrian. Lincoln has 3 games on tap this week, starting with a home game tomorrow night against Lagodi at Hill Field. Meanwhile, the South Knox Spartans are tied for 7th with Cass High School in the 2A poll. Greg Maddox looks fabulous at 40. Maddox threw 8 innings of 3-hit ball in his first starts since his landmark birthday, and the Chicago Cubs defeated the Los Angeles Dodgers 4-1 Monday night. Off to a 3-0 start for the first time since 1994, Maddox struck out 6 and didn't walk a batter. Maddox helped his own cause with his first hit of the season in the 5th, when the Cubs scored 3 runs and took a 4-0 lead. Over in the American League, Casey Blake's solo homer sparked a 6-run third inning, and the Cleveland Indians went on to hammer the Detroit Tigers 10-2. Paul Byrd pitched 7 solid innings with the win, lifting him to 2-1 on the year. Detroit's Chris Shelton hit his major league leading 9th homer, but to no avail, as the Tigers end up 2-5 on their homestand after winning 5 of their first 6 games of the season. Pittsburgh Pirates left-hander Oliver Perez is the next starter with the unenviable task of going up against Albert Pujols and the St. Louis Cardinals. Pujols went 2 for 3 in yesterday's 2-1 win, providing all the offense St. Louis needed with a 2-run homer in the first inning. The San Francisco Chronicle reports that Stan Conte, the head trainer for the San Francisco Giants, has been told to appear before a federal grand jury investigation whether Barry Bonds lied about his connection to the Balco steroid scandal. Conte, who is not related to Victor Conte of the Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative, has been subpoenaed to appear on April 27th. Cincinnati Reds center fielder Ken Griffey Jr. is back on the disabled list, this time because of inflammation in a tendon behind his right knee. The good news for the injury-plagued star is the ailment doesn't appear to be as serious as past problems that have sent him to the DL 7 times in recent seasons. General Manager Wayne Kurvsky says Griffey could probably play in a day or 2, but the team wants to be safe and decided to shelve him for 15 days. The last of the NBA's division winners was crowned last night. The San Antonio Spurs have claimed the Southwest Division title and home court advantage throughout the Western Conference playoffs by mauling Utah 115-82. Manu Ginobili had 18 points for the Spurs, who led by as many as 36 after carrying a 19-point lead into the final quarter. Jazz center Greg Ostertag announced after the game that he will retire following Wednesday's season finale against Golden State. The Milwaukee Bucks have taken over sole possession of the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference race by slamming Detroit 113-93. The outcome puts the Bucks in a tie for 6th with Indiana and Chicago, but Milwaukee owns tiebreakers against both teams. Michael Redd and Bobby Simmons scored 19 points apiece as the Bucks ended their home schedule with a 25-16 mark. The Pistons deactivated Rasheed Wallace and Richard Hamilton, giving them a chance to rest for the playoffs. Without them, the Detroit starters combined for just 22 points. Peja Stojakovic scored 27 points, and the Indiana Pacers ended a 9-game road losing streak with a 120-95 rout in Toronto. Stojakovic was one of 4 Indiana players to have at least 20 points before the start of the fourth quarter. The Pacers have made the playoffs for the 9th straight year. Who they will play is still in doubt going into their final regular season game tomorrow night. After last night's win over Toronto, Indiana is tied with Milwaukee and Chicago for the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Those teams are a half game behind Washington. The Pacers play at home tomorrow against Orlando. They need a win to finish at 500 and avoid a losing season. A 6'4" guard who averaged 18 points a game last season at a prep school in Maine has signed a basketball letter of intent with Purdue. Keaton Grant is the 4th recruit to sign with the Boilermakers for next season. Grant also averaged 7 rebounds and 6 assists per game at Bridgeton Prep School. He originally committed to Missouri after averaging 24 points at a game at Gateway High School in Kissimmee, Florida. The Vincennes Cub League will open its 49th season this weekend. Regular season games will begin Friday, April 21st at 6 p.m. A full schedule of games is set for Saturday, April 22nd as well. The 2006 season commences with 62 teams consisting of 650 players playing baseball and softball this summer at the Cub League complex. And Emma, that's a look at sports.
Thanks, Michael. Still to come on Newscenter 22, should students be bribed to stay in school? Well, Carson, California school officials are giving it a try. Stay with us.
I'm Matt Damon. On the next episode of Journey to Planet Earth, are half of the world's wildlife species on the brink of extinction? Why are tigers and primates disappearing? And is global warming a death sentence for polar bears? In Montana, the grizzly makes its last stand, while in the Everglades, help is coming from an unlikely source. Coming soon on PBS, the state of the planet's wildlife.
Go to school, see a movie. That's an enticement school officials in Carson, California are trying. Carson High School is offering free movie tickets and other prizes from local businesses to reward students for good attendance. The LA Dodgers have also donated game tickets. The program targets truants who have missed about a month's worth of school or more. Critics say the school is just trying to reward students for doing what they're supposed to do. But school officials say the program is aimed to keeping kids from dropping out. And that's all for this evening. Join us again tomorrow for Michael Nice and Kurt Maddox. I'm Emma Hall. Good night.
You're watching WVUT Vincennes.